And we know that having such an ambition is impossible, because we know that you cannot have such meetings more than 1.5 hours. So it's a bit embarrassing that we give each speaker such short time, 3 minutes. But the hope is that this will make new contacts possible, and that all continents and movements will be able to be present. We also hope to gather more information, so that we will bring together links to all the speakers and all the movements. And we have started on that already, but we will compile more information afterwards as well. I hope to be able to put this information about each speaker in the chat during the meeting. But now 6 minutes have passed already since the very beginning. And as I think we will have the speakers talk, and then we will find out what they say about how their own movement fits into this situation where we see the need for convergence. It was the aim to reach out to movements that see the necessity of multi-issue issues while still having their own main purpose. So I see now there's many things in the chat already. Thank you very much. This will be hard to keep an eye on. We should have had some more to look at the chat all the time. So, there has been an order, and now I have to just, there we have it.
Bueno, para quienes van llegando, les pedimos que nos den su nombre, su organización, si tienen algún contacto, un correo con el que nos podamos contactar con ustedes, sería genial para hacerlos parte de la lista de integrantes de la asamblea del Foro Social Mundial de Luchas y Resistencias. Será maravilloso contar con su información.
So, we will begin with Jackson Kisangani from Eastern Congo. He is active in the Peace and Climate Justice Network in Central and East Africa. I just put some links in the chat. And please, Jackson, take the word. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Todd. My name is Jackson Kisangani. I am a peace and climate justice activist based in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm speaking to you from a country where the exploitation of natural resources and the climate crisis are not separate issues. They are one and the same reality. In Eastern DRC, millions of people live under the threat of armed conflict, forced displacement, and the destruction of their environments. The strategic minerals that fuel the global energy transition are often mined amid violence, while the communities living in these areas continue to be for us. There can be no climate justice without peace, and there can be no lasting peace without social, environmental, and economic justice. It is precisely to address this reality that we created Peace and Climate Justice Africa. Our ambition is to build an African movement capable of linking the struggles for peace, climate justice, human rights, and social justice. We support young community organizers, create spaces for dialogue among movements, and develop joint campaigns across several African countries. We are convinced that the strongest solutions emerge from the communities themselves when they cooperate across borders. The draft declaration, "We Are the Solution," provides an important foundation. However, I would like to propose 3 ways to strengthen it. First, we should more explicitly recognize the link between armed conflicts, the exploitation of natural resources, and global supply chains. An energy transition cannot be considered just if it continues to cost the lives and dignity of people living in mining areas. Second, we should include a clear commitment to protecting human rights defenders, climate activists, journalists, and peacemakers who take consideration risks every day to defend their communities. Third, and last, give a
The sound is not good. El sonido no está bueno.
Yes, maybe we have all to close the video to help.
It is closed already. I think we lost him. He lives.
Also us.
It is already closed the video. I think we lost him. He lives in eastern Congo, in this area where there's many problems, but the young people are organizing, and as we see, they do have a convergence, an idea, and understanding of how the things are linked together. We have also Matilda Alvilm, I hope I said it correctly, who is from the radical climate justice movement in Europe. I just put some links in the chat so you can see.
Yeah, thank you. From Africa, we issue a simple call: let us stop investing more in weapons than in school, hospitals, agriculture, environment protection, and communities. At PCJ, Peace and Climate Justice Africa, we believe that the next step is no longer just to issue statements, but to build partnerships capable of turning these commitments into concrete actions on the ground. We are ready to work with all movements that share this vision so that our communities become not only the first victims of crisis, but also the first architects of solutions. Thank you.
Wonderful, Jackson. I think we are very impressed about all you're doing in Africa. Now to Europe. Let's see if Europe can match the Africans. Welcome, Matilda.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Yes.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you also, Jackson, for the intervention. Just to say firstly that I'm very happy and humbled to be here today with all of you. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm very excited to connect not only here but also at the World Social Forum. So I'm Matilde. I am a militant for climate justice, and I'm based in Lisbon, in Portugal. My base collective is Climaximo, which is a climate justice anti-capitalist collective. And I will be attending the World Social Forum in Benin as part of All-In, which is a project around the book on organizing and strategy. So I thought that we would have a little bit more time, so I will try to be short. But just first one disclaimer that my main focus, let's say, is climate justice. And I say this in the sense that the fight against fossil fuels is a fight against US imperialism, but there are a lot of people that are more insightful in this topic of anti-militarization and peace, with whom we would love to connect. So the place where I'm speaking is based mostly on the work that All-In project has made around anti-militarization movement for Europe, mixed with a couple of experiences that we've had in Climaximo. So maybe just to begin with a bit of analysis, for us, capitalism is a system of wars against the peoples of the world and the planet. Destroying the planet and lives is what keeps their profit running. So they are constantly destroying all conditions for existence of life, the land, the water, and the peoples. And there's a cycle, right? It's only possible to keep using fossil fuels through war. So the capitalist elite, primarily concentrated in the US empire, cannot accept anything other than the continued accumulation of their wealth. So it will do everything in its power to control the world's largest oil reserves. So this is openly at odds with the climate science. It is the ultimate declaration of war, not only on the peoples under direct imperialist military aggression, but on all the peoples of the world. And at the same time, modern warfare is only possible through the use of fossil fuels, right? So the military sector is one accelerator and the accelerator of climate and social collapse through the destruction and extermination of the world's people, either by the force of missiles, by the force of climate bombs, or both at the same time. So dependence on fossil fuels and their centrality to the global economy really accelerates militarization at the same time. So what to do? I want to share a bit of some reflections that we've had and hopefully connect on them. So for Europe, a group of people around the All-In project, we wrote in last December one article on why we think an anti-militarization focus and the naturalization movement could have a big opportunity right now, because there are many intervention points that can really shift the balance of hegemonic struggle towards anti-capitalist forces. So we identified a couple of reasons for relevance, namely, for example, the aggression towards Venezuela and now Cuba, a possible aggression on the Sahel, NATO spendings as austerity in many European countries where this has already produced mobilizations against the cost of living. Also the war and the genocide in Gaza, and these make a big opportunity, we think, to create a radical anti-militarization movement not to create, but an opportunity for this movement in Europe. So we did some work around this article. I can also send it, and around this intuition that we had that there needed to be more coordination around anti-militarization movements in Europe. And there's also a report back, which I can send to you. But to finish and to contribute a little bit on what we could possibly think would be next steps, I would highlight the following. So the first one is that it would probably be interesting to explore some fast response approach at international level. And we say this because in Portugal, when a couple of months earlier, there was the Trump that threatened to wipe out an entire civilization, referring to bombing Iran, we did some fast response approach with a couple of key movements in Portugal, so different kinds of movements, where we defined some criteria to mobilize what we do in each scenario and prepare some communication beforehand. And we think that this could be something that could be interesting to explore either at European or even international level, as to our knowledge, which of course is limited, we weren't aware of anything like this. but we think that it was something that could be interesting to explore. Another thing is, of course, the anti-militarization is a specific angle for Europe, and we think that's an angle that would work in Europe. But we are aware that in other contexts, other framings and topics against US imperialism and the war would work differently and work better. So we feel like movements in Europe also have some lack, and as ourselves, of transnational understanding. So we'd be very interesting in connecting, in hearing about global perspectives and understanding how this anti-militarization movement in Europe could articulate with movements in Africa, Latin America, and Pacific.
Yeah, okay. I put the links to your book in the chat already. And now we have to have two young speakers here. We obviously need to have some more discipline when the timing, if we shouldn't be exploding totally. I don't see that Guy Fuigap is among us from the Word Beyond War in Africa. But if you, Anna Chiara, I see you. Could you say some few words about Word Beyond War? Would be nice.
Can you hear me?
Yes, well.
Hello. Well, I was just here to listen, but if Guy could not make it, I don't know. I haven't seen a message from him. But War Beyond War is an international organization focused on the abolition of war. So we see that the need to tackle the institution of war as a whole, and while it's important to address a conflict that are happening at certain moments, we also really see the need to do this. And yeah, we do it in different ways. And a big focus is, of course, on weapon companies, like targeting weapon companies, and also increased funding for, like increased public funding towards military expenses. Yeah, and I know Guy is also going to be in Benin. He has like a different workshop there, organized also with the different chapter that like African chapters from War Beyond War. And yeah, if you have anything else specific, but this is just a brief introduction.
But that was very nice with an unprepared thing. It is in the chat, links to Word Beyond War and to specifically Guy Fuigap. So there is more information in the chat. There is also a link to a call for an international action day on peace on earth and peace with earth, coming from the same Swedish peace and climate justice movement that also have initiated this contact with Central and East Africa, where Jackson Kisangani is active. So there you have links to that, and it's translated into English and French and German and Italian. I now wonder if we also have missing Nathaniel from from Nigeria, from International Peace Bureau. I don't see him present. But on the other hand, Owen Tudor will speak later, and he's vice president of International Peace Bureau. So that would maybe cover up a bit for this. What is special with Nathaniel and International Peace Bureau is this regional focus, which means that wars with small arms becomes very important. It's not only the major wars that we have a tendency to focus upon. It's also these very many small movements that are important. Yeah. But we will come back to International Peace Bureau perspectives with Owen, I hope, who is, well, of course, also very much trade unionist, as there is a strong connection between International Peace Bureau and trade unions. So let's move to next speaker, and that's Vera Salka from the Global Women's for Peace and Against War. So Vera, please take the floor.
Greetings to everybody. First of all, let me greet the participants of the World Social Forum in Africa. It is a great thing that the forum will be in Africa. We all work for a new and prosperous world for the working class, for the people of Africa and all the other continents. As a member of the Global Women for Peace and Against NATO, we would like a world for children, women, and men who join on a world where there is cooperation, not senseless competition, a world for care through the people and for the people and nature. I'm sorry. Yes, I continue. We reject supremacy, the Übermensch mentality of the past. We say never again fascism, colonialism, and imperialism. Fukuyama said, it is the end of history. If it was so, it is the end of humanity. We think that it can't go on as it is now. We are under the pressure of various crises. This is inherent feature of global capitalism. We achieve results in our fight when the system is prospering. At time of crisis, they take back our achievements. This carousel goes round and round. Fight, achieve, take back, fight again. This must end. People need stability and well-being. We are very much for a new European Union of the people and not of militarism. All European countries on a basis of cooperation, not competition, not excluding any European country. More Europe, less US intervention, and no NATO. Eastern Europe is a dark spot. This is the country where I come from, Hungary. After the marking buying out, the global women want control of arm production, step by step, less and less arms. There is a need to think over economy where all those people can work after their work in arm production and in army is over. We have to talk a lot about the shares and shareholders which gain from the arm production. So we have to talk about all these issues if we don't want to be hypocrites. We all are in the same boat. We need a strong cooperation, resistance, and building out islands of new ways of thinking, communities of the future peaceful world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vera, and you kept the time well. Now, I think I don't see Youssef. He confirmed just before the meeting, but he has not been able to come in yet, as far as I can see. Youssef, are you here? But we are now in the solidarity.
Estaba aquí, pero creo que salió, capaz que se le cayó. Se le cayó la señal.
Oh, yeah. And as you saw, Owen informed us in the chat that it was the same problem with Nathaniel. He's in the countryside with bad internet connections. Well, it's fantastic that we can have these Zoom meetings, but we know that there's always some practical problems anyway. So, Fabio Alberti, are you still here? I saw you before. Yeah, please take the floor.
I am here.
Perfect.
I am here. Okay.
And
Perfect. So my English is not so good, so
¿Puedes hablar Puedes hablar en
Can
español, francés, inglés o portugués. El que te haga
English.
mejor. Sí.
I can speak English, but I read, so it's easier for me. And my intervention will be about the coloniality of development aid. And I think that the World Social Forum in Cotonou could be an opportunity between engage an honest dialogue between Western NGOs and African NGOs. And I hope that we can leave Cotonou with a common political commitment, maybe a charter for decolonize the development aid. We know that colonialism never ended, but has changed its instruments. And one of those instruments is the international development aid system. And of course, development aid has saved lives, supported the human rights, funded service. No one should deny that, but we must distinguish between the honest work of thousands of aid workers and the way the aid system itself functions. For more than 80 years, aid has been designed, governed, and evaluated almost exclusively by donor countries. They set the priority, define the rule, choose the parameter, measure the result. In other words, aid is a form of power. In many cases, it has been used to support government near to the Western power and far from their own people. Through the conditionality imposed by donor international financial institution as a combined structural adjustment program that forced the country to privatize public service, liberalize economies. And the problem goes even deeper. For decades, the aid system has served as an alternative to reforming unequal international economic relations. Instead of addressing the structural causes of inequality, unfair trade, debt, extractionism, tax injustice, the international community has preferred to offer aid. Too often, aid has managed the consequence instead of removing the causes. Patrice Lumumba, Nkrumah, Nyerere, Thomas Sankara all warned us about this. They understood that when aid replaces economic sovereignty, maintains dependency and leaves decision-making power in the hands of donors. After more than 80 years of development cooperation, global inequality remains, and wealth continues to flow from the south to the north. That is why we need a profound reform of international cooperation. We must end tied aid and all political economical conditionality. We must transfer real decision-making power to the countries, communities, and organizations that receive this resource. We must recognize that aid is not generosity, is a little part of the restitution of wealth accumulated through colonialism and the international economic unjust system. Finally, a word to NGOs, including my own. We work in Southwest Asia since 30 years. We also need to change. We must stop asking how to strengthen local partners and start asking how to transfer power. We must move beyond the relationship between donor and beneficiaries and build alliance among civil society working together to change the system in the north like in the south. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabio. I was impressed by your website with this very typical message, peace and social and environmental justice. And it really strikes the core of this convergence we need. And I do like your criticism and NGO. I see Roberto Bissu among the participants. And the first time I heard very strong criticism of NGOs was it as his office in Montevideo, where a person from India said, NGOs, that is no governmental organization. And what I think you said was that exactly that is what we have to avoid in the future. So thanks you for this welcome note. And I understand you do a lot of practical solidarity work as well. So we still are keeping the time, and actually now it's Owen Tudor who can make a contribution.
Joseph is in the room.
Oh, well, then it's Joseph. I'm sorry, I didn't. Joseph, please take the floor.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Yes.
If Owen is prepared, he should go. I can say a
Yes.
few words, but I'm happy for Owen to go.
So, Joseph, please.
Yes. Thank you for this invitation for coordinating to have this meeting. It's very important about, and especially
There is problem with the connection, obviously.
I hear in the beginning from one of our how we need to protect. You hear me? So, hello?
It's very, it's not much. But
Go straight.
¿Podrían apagar sus cámaras para ver si logramos escuchar a Joseph?
Like this, it's better because I lost the connection. So I will try again.
Bueno, creo que salió.
Joseph has done very much for bringing up the Palestine issue in the World Social Forum process.
Open your camera, Tort.
Okay, I was closing it.
He's trying again, Joseph, to come back.
Joseph had done very, very much for the Palestine issue in the World Social Forum process, and we are very grateful for all his efforts. And we know that the Palestine issue is the biggest movement we have at the present movement. Hope we can come back to that when we
hear me now?
Yes.
Tort,
yeah.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I think what also been mentioned in all the struggles that we are facing in this world and the changing that's happening, and really to connect peace and climate and our struggle. Of course, also one of the colleagues, she spoke about how we need to protect the journalists, how we need to protect the human rights defenders, how we need to protect the climate defenders. All this, it came in the same value, in the same work that we are inside. And when we are talking about Palestine, not because we feel it's the only important topic in this world, but we believe that all the issues that we are struggling for, from imperialism to colonization to Zionist, to defending climate, to human rights, it's all coming in this place, what is called Palestine, and what we call it also the future of Palestine is the future of all of us, because this is what we talk about in Benin, in Kathmandu, the last social forum, and this is what we will carry with us to Africa, but this time in a different way, because we believe that the struggles in Africa, Palestine is similar on what's happening in Africa a long time ago, from colonization to stealing the land, to stealing to killing the people, the genocide, all this kind of topic we are facing it now, that in Africa happening long time ago. And that's what we need to present in this way, not only that we talk about the genocide and what's happening in Palestine, we talk about the West Bank, we talk about Jerusalem, but in the same time we talk about other topics. When we talk about climate, we talk about the ecocide and how we need to bring this topic to our discussion and to put it that the occupation is part of the destroying of the climate. And because we all know that how much weapon used to destroy Gaza and which kind of destroying happening to the climate through this. How many boats and airplanes bring the weapons from Europe and from the United States, and how much it costs to affect the climate change. And in the same time, even when we speak about climate and we speak about genocide and ecocide, and what mentioned about journalists also, we raise the topic mediacide also, because this is part of defending human rights, defending the right of speech, defending the right of people to know. And we know what's happening in Gaza, 261 journalists being killed in this war. Because just they are making their job to raise the voice to that all of you see what's going on in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Media seed as a new concept was interesting because it's really concrete.
Media seed, yes.
Yeah, very concrete when it comes to not talk about ecocide. Is it 1% of the land that is not totally destroyed? Anyway, it's totally horrible, of course, all of what's going on, the killing of people, etc. Now is the question. There is obviously should have considered that there is practical problems when organizing a meeting like this from so many parts of the world. I suggest we have 8 minutes of open floor and then starts with a trade unionist after this. It will be a problem to keep the time level, but maybe we can extend it 10 minutes or so. So I say the floor is open. Anyone who wants to intervene, or if there's any speaker who wants to address the others or so. I get a bit worried that the messages from very different movements are so similar. I've been organizing similar things before, but this is really very thing. Rita, please take the floor. Rita, please.
Rita?
Ok.
Ok.
Eu fico. Deixa eu me ajeitar um pouco mais aqui. Eu fico bastante feliz e sensibilizada com essa articulação, né, essa proximidade entre movimentos distintos, né, e que se articulam aí para a busca de uma solidariedade internacional com o fortalecimento de lutas que nos tocam a todas. A da Palestina realmente é uma luta emblemática. Quando conseguirmos resolver o que acontece com a Palestina, acho que o mundo terá outro rumo. E isso diz respeito a lutas também como de Cuba, de Venezuela. Nós temos várias questões que que dialogam. O que acontece com o Congo, atualmente tão explorado por recursos de tecnologia, e esses recursos minerais, recursos que estão sugando o planeta e estão sobrepondo interesses de grandes corporações aos interesses dos povos. Tudo isso precisamos tratar. Eu queria acrescentar aqui a preocupação, e é uma preocupação que estamos levando a este Fórum Social Mundial, que é uma preocupação. Todas essas lutas, elas estão hoje afetadas por um controle que está sobre nós, sobre nossos dados, sobre os nossos movimentos, e nós precisamos discutir isso, discutir a partir de cada uma das lutas que estão sendo colocadas aqui. Nós não temos não podemos mensurar nem a capacidade de pensar na quantidade de dados e informações que, neste momento, estão sendo recolhidas dos nossos, da nossa vida, né, do nosso cotidiano, e essa será uma discussão importante no fórum, com várias atividades sobre as big techs, os sistemas de vigilância. Hoje nós temos um esforço do governo americano para que junte os dados de inteligência colhidos nos Estados Unidos com os dados de inteligência colhidos em Israel pela mesma empresa, né, Palantir, e isso está mexendo com a política nos Estados Unidos, o orçamento está sendo barrado porque ele está condicionado a isso, e nós precisamos pensar sobre isso em conjunto, não adianta, não se trata de uma questão tecnológica separada das lutas que estão comprometidas por isso, né? Então, eu queria acrescentar isso, dizer que este fórum terá esse debate, o Fórum Mundial de Mídia Livre está levando este debate para o Fórum Social Mundial e várias organizações estão trazendo essa discussão também. Acho que na Assembleia na Assembleia Social Mundial, devemos trabalhar isso como uma preocupação que envolve a todas e todos nós. E eu queria agradecer pela presença, pela participação, pela contribuição de todo mundo. Vamos em frente. A partir do Brasil, nós estamos indo também, levando algumas discussões nesse fórum, que não são apenas sobre tecnologia, na verdade, sobre outros temas de solidariedade internacional, sobre também a articulação do fórum, o diálogo entre América Latina, Brasil, Colômbia, Palestina. Então, precisamos trazer tudo isso para um processo que realmente possa fortalecer as lutas locais, as lutas internacionais. Muito obrigada, era isso que queria dizer.
Thank you, and I think that brought up a really new dimension which the movements have been lacking. It's not enough with saying just peace and social and climate justice. We have to bring into these new power structures where we see it all over the world, that US is bringing in everyone into their technical hegemony. And there's a lot of agreements made now. One of them is called Pax Silica, where Sweden and Norway and even EU have now signed on to subordinate its technological future, including critical minerals and such things. But there's also very much linked to the Israeli military. It's really Palantir, as we've heard about. So this is really an issue where we need more knowledge and where we cannot say any more military-industrial complex because it's in the whole social media, it's everywhere, sort of. So thank you for bringing up this, Rita. I don't see anyone opening the floor, so I think we simply move on to next speaker. So now I invite Owen to the floor and put some links in the chat.
Thanks very much indeed, Tord. And I don't think you should be upset that we're all agreeing with each other. It just proves you've done your work already, you and the other organisers. So thanks enormously to you and your colleagues for having organised this. My name is Owen Tudor. I'm Vice President of the International Peace Bureau, one of the world's oldest peace organizations, and hat tip to Joseph Gerson, who's one of our co-presidents, who's on the call as well. But I'm speaking here really as the former Deputy General Secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation, with 200 million trade union members in 164 countries and territories around the world. Unions have a long commitment to the World Social Forum and the ideal of bringing people together. Brother Anselm from ITUC Africa will be leading our delegation in Benin, but he can't be here today. Our principal concerns as trade unionists are obviously about worker rights and social justice, but social justice is not possible without peace. And vice versa. Peace is not possible without social justice. These concepts are bound up in the idea of common security, which I'll drop a link in the chat about. Common security requires and creates the possibility for action against the climate emergency, action against inequality. And again, these things are not possible without human rights or democracy. Fundamentally, what we need is a world for people and planet, not profit and war. I'd like to welcome our colleague from Brazil, Leonardo from CUT, but I want to hand over mostly to Louise Regan from the UK National Education Union, who helped organise the recent London conference against war. So, Louise, could you tell us about that conference?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you very much for inviting us along. So in June, Stop the War in the UK, along with a group of a coalition of other partners, but also very heavily supported by the trade unions, including the National Education Union. I think we were the largest union that was heavily involved, organised an anti-war conference. It was following on from a conference that was held last year in Paris. It had over 3,000 delegates to the conference from at least 27 countries outside of the UK, including hundreds from France, over 100 from Spain, and around 50 delegates from Germany. There was also countries from across the globe, trade unions, from across the world who supported the conference, even though they weren't able to send delegates to it. So it had a massive sort of global support. From my point of view, as a trade unionist in the education sector, there were a lot of education unions there, and we started some discussions around forming a sort of Educators for Peace block on a sort of global scale, and linking up trade unions in the education sector to think about what more we can do, because as I've been here listening, what is happening, it has a global impact, impacts all of us. There was also, which has also been mentioned here, a very heavy focus on the current situation in Palestine. Mustafa Barghouti addressed the conference, which was very important and was a very powerful speech. And a statement came out of the conference, which I'm happy to share with people, which also sort of solidified our commitment to what we were going to do going forward. So there are a number of actions, including some links with trade union dock workers who have been taking some action around the issue of Palestine, a day of solidarity with them, and some other days of action that are coming up over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, which I can share with people. But it was a very impressive conference. All of the speakers were absolutely fantastic, and people had travelled, as I say, from all over the world to be part of it and were very engaged. It was huge and it was very powerful. There is a website. I can put the link to that in the chat if people want to have a look. It's got links to various bits, some of the speeches and other things, but I'll put some links in the chat for people who are interested in it. But it was extremely well respected and well supported here in the UK by unions here. Thank you.
I was there and it was endless, many fantastic speeches and all kind of responses. Obviously, the Palestine movement, all the young activists were really moving, but everyone moved it, whether they were veterans or young or any age. And the response when the French trade unionists started to talk, and there was 850 trade unionists from France in the hall, and it was translation simultaneously in a big video screen. And this mass meeting, it cannot replace anything. I mean, these Zooms, etc. But it was such an event. And when I tell others about it, they simply they can't imagine. So thank you very much for this. And of course, what happens in France last year. The action day that were called for was also very interesting. It was the Palestine Solidarity Action Day on the 10th of October. But maybe most importantly, actually, an action weekend, if I remember right, 21st to 22nd of November, against militarization and conscription. And this is, I think, one of the key things with this mass meeting is to understand we have to address the young generation. So it was had everything in it. So thank you very much. There is already a link in the chat, but that is for the final declaration. I put it in the chat, but there you can find all the videos and so on, and get a glimpse of the feeling, which cannot, of course, be understood unless you were there. Thank you very much for coming here, Louise and Owen. Now we will have next fantastic mass mobilization going on, and that is the opposite in terms of instead of urban movements and urban trade unions, is the rural movements who are now mass mobilizing for World Social Forum in Benin. And it is for the first time, as far as I know, that it is a grassroots movement in 17 West African countries that invites and are hosting the World Social Forum. And this is called something in French, but it's a convergence global for land and water. And now we invite Buri Turkana from the Gender Commission in this convergence. Please take the floor, Buri.
Thank you so much. Eventually, I'm even in the caravan right now. We are just from an agroecological community where we visited people from different communities. And right now, you see with me, we have the caravanners, and he's from Mali. We have the Gambians, we are Senegalese. And you see, we are in the Guinea forest right now, doing the caravan mobilizing towards the World Social Forum. So as I speak to you today, on behalf of the peasants, on behalf of the pastoralists, the rural workers, and the West African mobilizers, under the global convergence and the struggle of land, water, and seeds, but also on Labia Campesina, because we share the same vision of farmers. So as we speak today, our communities, caravanners from Gambia, from Senegal, from Mauritania, from the 16 West African countries to be precise, we are in the caravan here, crossing from Senegal, starting from Tambacounda to Guinea-Conakry, and here we are in Seredou in the southern part of Guinea, and we'll be moving to Ivory Coast, and from Ivory Coast, we'll be going to Ghana, and from Ghana, we'll be going to Togo, where all the caravanners will be meeting and we work towards the World Social Forum. And also, like in the purpose of our dialogue, I know that you people will forgive my voice, because since we have been chanting, going through a lot, visiting the rural communities, the grassroots movements, and in the process of dialogue today is to build a multi-issue alliance. And I'm here to tell you that there is no climate justice, no economic justice, and no peace without land justice and food sovereignty. And right now, in our rural communities, so we are on the global assault. We are the first to feel the climate. Hello, Sava, don't start, Sava. So we are the first to feel the climate chaos, the drought, the unpredictable rain, and the drying land, yet we are not the ones who cause it. And instead of the support, our reward always are the cooperatives, the land grabs, and the unfair free trade agreement, and the structural debt that bleed our country dry. And furthermore, the global militarization directly threatens us, because war destroys fields, poison water sources, and also displace millions of smallholder farmers, turning independent food producers into refugees. And right now we are calling for action, not only to take action, but also we must break the wall between the urban and the rural struggle. Whereas I call on the unions, on our struggle to, at least to say that our struggle for fair prices is the same as your struggle for fair wages. And for the climate change, true climate action means defending traditional agroecological farming and not just a corporate greenwashing. And to our peace comrades, true peace begins when a community can feed itself without foreign corporates. And in that regard, I will conclude by saying that the caravan of the global south will bring the voice of the earth. And we must not, we do not want charity, but we demand rights. We demand the protection of our seas, our water, and our territory. And in that regard, I would say let us build this on unified global front, from the field to the factories, and from the rural villages to the urban centers, mobilizing the struggle and also globalizing the hope. As the slogan always says, we globalize hope and globalize the struggle. So therefore, I introduce you to the caravan that we are in right now, and hoping that inshallah we are all going to meet in Benin from 4th to 8th of August 2026, and we will see a lot of results from the caravan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Turkana. Have a nice trip with the caravan.
Wonderful with this report directly from Africa on its way to World Social Forum. Fantastic. And fair prices and fair wages. That is really a unifying call. As we know, actually, that Via Campesina is equally big as I took. And I know in Sweden, the Via Campesina in Sweden is so essential for the whole struggle here in our countries, although there are few, but we all know we cannot eat money. We cannot eat weapons. Now I welcome Sushavan Dar from this impossible abbreviation, so you have to spell it out yourself. CADTM. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Todd, and comrades and friends. I bring warm greetings from CADTM, the Committee for the Abolition of Illegitimate Debt. We are a network of anti-debt campaigners present in 4 continents and around 40 countries of the world. In a couple of weeks, we are going to meet in Cotonou, Benin, for the World Social Forum. And when we meet this time, it's a time when the wars are multiplying, the climate crisis is deepening, inequalities are widening, authoritarian politics all around the globe, and public debt has become a permanent institution of domination. And for us, these are not separate crises, these are interconnected. And therefore, our struggles must also become interconnected. Earlier this year, many of us met in Porto Alegre in Brazil at the International Anti-Fascist Conference. The Porto Alegre letter, which Unity Against Fascism and for Sovereignty of Peoples, reminds us that fascism today is not simply an electoral phenomenon. It's rooted in neoliberalism, austerity, militarism, imperialism, and growing inequalities. It also reminds us that the forces we confront increasingly coordinate internationally. Financial capital, multinational corporations, military alliances, big tech, and the far right, all organized across the border. So therefore, for us, internationalism is no longer simply an ethical commitment. It has become a strategic necessity at this point of time, and therefore, that is where our perspective becomes relevant, because for us, debt is not simply an economic issue. Debt has become a mechanism through which austerity is imposed, public services are dismantled, extractivism is expanded, and democratic choices are subordinated to creditors. So debt is therefore inseparable from climate justice or food sovereignty, workers' rights, feminist struggles, peace and sovereignty of the peoples, and everything that we fight for, perhaps. So this brings us to the central question before us today. Why convergence? It's very simple, because none of our movements can win alone. It's very simple. And climate justice cannot succeed while debt forces governments into extractivism. Food sovereignty cannot advance while corporate power controls land, seas, and trade. Workers cannot defend their wages and social rights while finance dictates austerity. So, therefore, our struggles begin in different places, but they confront the same system. So, what does the convergence ask of us? It doesn't ask us to become the same. It asks every movement to contribute its own strength to a common political project. For example, the trade union organized workers. I'm also a trade unionist, by the way, organizing workers in the tea plantation and the port, the contract workers, informal sector workers in the port. Peasant movement defend land and food sovereignty. Feminists challenge patriarchy, and others, indigenous people defending their territories. Climate movements, exposing the ecological limits of capitalism. Debt justice movement that expose the power of finance. Peace movements which challenge militarization. Movements standing with Palestine and all people struggling for self-determination remind us that there cannot be no justice without the sovereignty of the peoples, and each movement is indispensable. Therefore, convergence doesn't ask us to be identical, it asks us to become mutually responsible for one another's struggles. For that reason, I believe that Cotonou should strengthen the social movement assembly, not simply as a closing event of the forum, but as a permanent space where movements develop common analysis, coordinate campaigns, organize international solidarity, and build collective actions. I referred to the Porto Alegre International Anti-Fascist Conference in Porto Alegre, which Porto Alegre challenged us to build unity against fascism and for the sovereignty of the peoples. The World Social Assembly reminds us that we are the solution. So let Cotonou become the place where the solution begins to take organizational form. If capital globalizes exploitation, let us globalize solidarity. If the far right internationalizes hatred, let's internationalize hope, resistance, and struggle. In the future, we will not be remembered whether we met at Cotonou, but what did we do, and did our movements begin to act together? So thank you very much. Thank you very much for organizing the meeting and inviting us.
Thank you very much, Sushma. And I put the links in the chat from this anti-fascist meeting in Porto Alegre, and of course to this KDTM, maybe one says like that. Now we will go to a very different part of the world in terms of that the conflict is really direct. And first we will have Olga Karash from Belarus, now in exile in Vilnius, condemned terrorist 12 times, I think, in Belarus, and strong
29 times extremist and 2 times terrorist.
Oh, it's even worse. But also a great worker for convergence between peace, environment, and human rights movements. So please take the word, Olga.
I try to be so short as possible because I know that time is very limited, and of course I would like to speak about militarism and mention some new trends in our region, because now I'm in Lithuania. This is some kind of front line, and a lot of escalating of the militarism and military policy and hate speech, etc., etc. I want to say several points. Just this is a very new trend. Still, we have the gap, and we have very huge problems that we have no any kind of early monitoring system about anything what is happening below and on grassroots level. So now the new trend is affected to the most unuseful members of militaristic society, women. So we have a lot of physical attacks in different countries now when ultra-right-wing military men beat women on streets or on public places only from their nationality. So it's a huge new trend. So Ukrainian women are beaten because they're Ukrainian, Russian women beaten because they're Russian, Belarusian women beaten because somebody thinks that they're Russian or Ukrainian. And so it's many new cases during last months in Poland, in Lithuania, in Russia, in Georgia, in Ukraine, in many other countries. And this is very interesting that men beat and use the violence and sometimes sexual harassment against the women, and they explain that the women are enemies, like enemies from other nationality or country, etc. So this is very interesting, and also at the same time, as we see, this is unbelievable bad and decreasing social rights for women everywhere here. Now we have new cases. Of course, the question, first question for the right of women to have the to choose partner. And now many state bodies in different countries again destroy the families and deport partners, sometimes women, to different countries. This is huge problem, especially in so-called democratic countries. Like if women choose the wrong partner, or it's she is punished by state bodies if somebody doesn't understand the new trend. Of course, wrong partner by militaristic policy from the enemy nation. And secondly, also very interesting that now we start to have more and more requests for help from women with children here in Lithuania. I think that it's quite common for the whole Baltic states, when women with children who cannot care themselves or have some kind of problems, they become homeless. Even with children, children have disabilities, and it's something awful, and the Convention of Child Rights has guarantees, for women and especially girls, minor girls, to receive some protection from the state bodies. It doesn't happen. So the Baltic states have a lot of money for weapons, but no money for their own children and women in needs. And we have more and more poor people, and especially it's very connected to the working rights. Why I'm so happy to see some trade unions here, because more and more people pressure it to work illegally, without any guarantees, without any documents, and of course it makes a lot of consequences for the workers, because they cannot protect themselves. So this is also quite new trend, especially as we have a very deep economic crisis. So we have less and less working places, and of course more and more manipulations from the entrepreneurship, especially big entrepreneurship. So they can decrease the guarantees and payments, etc., etc. This is some new trends. Of course, if we speak about my favorite topic about conscientious objectors, unfortunately, this is still many attacks, and the attacks are increasing against Russian, Belarusian, and Ukrainian conscientious objectors and deserters. More and more deportations. Very, very hard to stop it, but I'm very, very grateful for the whole peace movement, because now we all, sorry to use militaristic language, we all are frontline defenders, and if something good is happening, it's happening only because your solidarity, your work, your activism, your reaction, nothing more. I don't believe in European justice anymore. I don't believe in any other mechanisms, but I believe in people's solidarity, and I believe that together we can change the situation. I'm really, really grateful for the Matilda initiative against militarism. I strongly support it. Thank you very much, and I close my mouth, and just don't give up, because you even cannot imagine how many people here are so tired from militarism. They cannot explain what is happening. They cannot explain why they don't like the processes, but they need you and us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then we have also Dennis Leven. Are you still here?
Yes, actually, I'm.
Oh.
Can you hear
Take
me
the
well?
floor, please. Take the floor, and I put information in the chat.
Yes, happy to see everyone here, and thank you very much for having me. Yo hablo también español, pero inglés me da más fácil. Then I switch to English. So basically, let me introduce myself and my organization. I myself am a political journalist in exile. I live now in Germany because I'm politically persecuted in Russia for anti-war protest. But I'm also a political organizer, and here I represent the organization of Radical Democracy, which was formed in exile already a couple of years ago, when the full-scale invasion in Ukraine has already started. And Radical Democracy is a system of cooperation built by the Russian-speaking left and progressive forces. We unite around 50, a bit over 50 anti-capitalist projects across different post-Soviet countries. And not only post-Soviet countries, even different countries where there is a Russian-speaking diaspora, including Israel and occupied territories of Palestine, where our comrades provide the protective presence, for instance, in the occupied West Bank. Yeah, our organization includes different media outlets, research groups, and activist organizations, mostly labor organizations or trade union organizations in exile. Yeah, our goal is to build an organizational infrastructure that would be capable for building a mass coalition and coming to power over the next 2 years after the war ends in Russia. So yeah, we plan that our entity, a political entity, will serve as a hub for broader democratic mobilization. And we wait for the moment for crisis to rise in Russia and the collapse of the Putin's regime, and we do our best to shorten the time that has left till the collapse of the Putin's regime, which we consider to be neoliberal, ultra-conservative, and imperialist regime, and contrary to many popular opinions, and doesn't represent any kind of opposition to the world, to the Western countries, but rather unite a common neoliberal cause together. We also recognize that our success shapes the security and the future not only of Russia, but of course of the neighboring countries. And this is obviously everyone who has been witnessing the catastrophe which is going on in Ukraine for the recent years. And yeah, there is no time to wait and no room for error. That's why we act now. So we act now transnationally and between different countries. We have our undercover branches in Russia. Of course, they are forced to act covertly right now due to the unprecedented level of the political repressions in Russia. Still, we do function. We do even participate somehow in the parliamentary elections that are going to take place in Russia in September. So what we do mostly, we reach the different progressive leftist projects which were forced to leave the country or which were forced to go undercover or underground after the full-scale invasion has started. We are finding them the common spaces for cooperation. We bring them together in exile, and we basically unites the very fragmented Russian left, ranging from anarchists to communists, and yeah, it has always been a difficult issue, but we've been quite successful in this. Yeah, and we are constantly inventing mutually beneficial cooperation techniques. We cooperate with different leftist parties in European countries and in post-Soviet countries, including, for instance, Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, or Georgia, which has also been under huge influence and imperialist influence from Russia. In Russia itself, we focus on defending the labor rights and strengthening the democratic trade unions. Most of the trade unions in Russia are strictly controlled by the government, but still in the local branches there are short, as we call them, small pockets of dissent, which we can reach and with which we can work and cooperate, fortunately. Also, many labor union activists are already in exile here in Germany, in Georgia, or anywhere in the world. So we use their expertise to provide labor rights protection for Russians and Russian workers, because as you might understood, the situation with the labor rights and conditions has been worsening also since the beginning of the invasion. For example, the child labor got now legal, for instance, in Russia. Yeah, we also have a labor group, working group on the climate change, because the Russian invasion and the militarization of Russia, which has started long before the Europe has started this thing, hugely influenced the climate situation in Russia, and it has been the devastating impact on the nature. So yeah, we analyze the climate crisis and advancing the environmental user for post-war Russia development. We're supporting the initiatives that strive for gender justice and combat all forms of inequality within Russia and within the Russian community in exile. We monitor and countering far-right violence in Russia, which has been expanding extremely fast recently. People are hunting the immigrants, people are hunting the non-Slavic peoples of Russia. And yeah, the situation is dangerous and catastrophic, I would say, as well. We provide protection for some people. We evacuate people from Russia. Yeah, and we provide the media coverage for the most severe situations. And lastly, we build transnational solidarity networks. So that's what I'm doing here, basically, and what I'm going to do in Benin. We cooperate with the European progressive forces and labor unions, as well as such forces from the post-Soviet countries and even the Middle Eastern countries, including, as I mentioned, Turkey, Palestine, other different countries. So basically, this is it about myself. In the chat, I'm going to put the link for our newsletter on Substack that we are having. So we are trying to bring the progressive perspective on what's going on within Russia. Yeah, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Denis. Now we have asked Oscar Gonzalez at the Mexico University, Mexico City, but I don't see him here. Oscar? No. And that is maybe good, because we start to get very little time left. What about Nel Bonnet? Oh yeah, you are there, and then I put some information in the chat. Nel Bonilla, you are most welcome, an academician who writes strongly about how the world works and how the power elites are joining. But you're also a little bit Mexican background, and you understand the need of strengthening the communal and social spheres in society. Please take the word, Nel.
Yes, well, thank you for inviting me, first of all, and to this very, very interesting and important online meeting. Well, I'm an independent author and researcher, and I write on a Substack publication called Worldlines, and on the topics of power elites all over the world, from the imperial core and their policies, their foreign policy strategies, multipolarity, or what it means or what it could mean. Well, anyway, so my comment would be a little bit about the Stop Rearm the World document, and specifically I want to say what I saw there, or what I read there, is that it talks, or it is about naming what different movements want in the world and what harm it opposes. But I would say that there are two things that we need to, and which actually many of the speakers have also pointed at or talked about, two things we can focus or highlight a bit more. One is we need to have a theory or name the actor that is driving, for example, militarization, neoliberalism, capitalist rearmament, etc. And in that sense, I would say we could talk about how specifically, but of course not only, Western countries or countries of the global North, plus allied, let's call them elites in other countries, are integrating more and more, which means on different economic levels, cultural, of course, education, also Pax Silica, as Todd mentioned. So this needs to be named and does not focus too much, for example, to say, well, it's Europe that is rearming. It's rather Europe through the US in an integrated manner, for example. Not only, but I hope you get my point. And the second point, which is very important to mention, is I think we also need to talk about a shared strategic horizon for all the movements. That is not only about enumerating the different ills of the world, so to speak. And in that sense, I would propose, maybe if we talk about a different or a new model of development, and without saying, okay, what will replace it is based on this or that ideology, no, but we could say at least that maybe the balance between the private market sphere and the social, the public, the state and common sphere needs to change, which means that the social, the public, common sphere of the relations in the world and in countries and regions and so on needs to be emphasized over the private market. And this is what I mean by this. This should be the goal, overall goal. And this actually then contains all these different points of the different movements, from peace, rearmament, climate justice, trade unions too. So these are like the two most important points I would add. And also, let's not forget, if we hear the word interoperability, which talks about like software and technology, we should, instead of talking about, say, let's regulate them, let's regulate corporations and so on. I mean, that's a first step. It's also important to talk rather about building sovereignty in different spheres, like technology, like media, culture, food, of course, water. So I think these is also the strategy would be part of this, what I call focusing and rebalancing toward a social state and common sphere. So I think I will leave it with these points, because the time is already running. But I hope I contributed a little to this. I put a link to my Substack in the chat, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, and I have to explain why we invited Nell. It is simply the most qualified reaction we have had on our proposal for some kind of more elaborated vision of what we want in the future. We turn that into more simple bullet points, which many have received, I hope. But maybe it has to be turned into some language, and then it is useful to try to go a little bit beyond the more slogans we have. So thank you for that contribution, and I most welcome. I recommend the Substack of Nell Bonilla. Now we have to. I think I saw Guy turning up here actually for some while. I don't know if he's still here, but he at least was here for a moment from Cameroon. But we have very short time, and I have to give Rosie the decision. Actually, she has the last word as well, but also decision if we can have a little bit more time or if we have to end precisely on time in respect for the translators. So, Rosie, you have the word. And I put your links to your organization in the chat.
Gracias, Thor. No, tenemos media hora todavía, hasta las 10, media hora más, 30 minutos más para... Sí, no hay problema. Igual, si acabamos antes, acabamos antes. Bueno, soy Rosy Zúñiga, soy mexicana, voy a hablar en español. Represento al Consejo de Educación Popular de América Latina y el Caribe, tanto en la Asamblea como en el Foro Social Mundial, en el Consejo Internacional, en el Secretariado. Además de, porque el extra es hacer la gestión de intérpretes y buscar la sala. O sea, ese es un extra. Bueno, decirles que estoy muy honrada de estar aquí escuchándoles, escuchando pues cada una de las luchas que tenemos en nuestros territorios. Creo que tenemos luchas comunes. Creo que una cosa que hemos dicho desde SEAL a nivel continental es pues cómo mantener viva la esperanza en un mundo de tanta desesperanza, ¿no? De tanto genocidio, tanto despojo, tantas guerras. Ya lo han dicho algunos de ustedes, creo que lo que está en disputa es la vida digna, la vida de los pueblos, la autodeterminación de los propios pueblos. Vivimos en América Latina, bueno, desde SEAL, uno de nuestros focos claves es la educación popular, que de cierta manera la acuñó Paulo Freire y la siguieron tejiendo educadoras y educadores de diferentes territorios de nuestra región. Empezando por Simón Rodríguez, el maestro de Simón Bolívar. Martí nos inspira, compañeras que están en Brasil, compañeras que están en México, construyendo pues esperanza sobre todo. Uno de nuestros principales desafíos es cómo contribuir a que los grupos organizados construyan conocimiento propio desde sus propias luchas y a la vez construir estrategias para un mejor futuro. Vivimos en América Latina, como lo sabemos, nos llegan las noticias, la disputa por nuestro territorio, la disputa geopolítica. Hay una disputa geopolítica en el Caribe, particularmente donde está amenazado, digamos, no se habla mucho, pero Puerto Rico es una colonia de Estados Unidos, es un pueblo que se ha querido independizar, y también está sobre todo Cuba, que está siendo amenazada, asediada, asfixiada, que tiene ya 7 meses sin petróleo, que eso afecta radicalmente el acceso a la comida, al agua, a la luz. Como ustedes saben, no sé si alguno de ustedes ha ido a Cuba. Cuba es un país caribeño donde hace mucho calor. Estas son las temporadas de más calor. Julio, agosto, donde hay mucha humedad, donde también entonces la situación vive una realidad asfixiante, desesperante. Quieren ahorcar, quieren ahogar a un pueblo si no lo han podido hacer por otras medidas, por este bloqueo criminal y genocida, al igual que lo que está pasando en Gaza. Haití, por supuesto, está viviendo desde hace varios años, 16 años, cuando fue también el terremoto, como el que ahora vivió, doble terremoto que vive Venezuela, que afecta sus vidas, el acoso, la violación de las mujeres, el nacimiento de niños, el impulso de bandas criminales que también están ahí. Y los que hacen los pueblos, que hacen las organizaciones de educación popular, pues lo que ustedes han señalado como lo que plantea la caravana que ahora viene de Gambia y que va para Cotonú, de decir, pues lo que hacemos es sembrar, cuidar la tierra, proyectos con mujeres, proyectos con jóvenes para construir otras estrategias educativas, estrategias que dignifiquen a las personas. Igual lo que pasa en Brasil también, ¿no? O sea, en Brasil vivimos un genocidio de juventudes negras, asesinato de personas en los territorios, en las favelas, con una facilidad de quererlas desaparecer de la faz de la tierra. Sigue siendo como una disputa la reforma agraria en muchos territorios, es decir, tierra para todos. O sea, hay una ya hay un acaparamiento de tierras terrible. Alguien decía alguna ocasión, hay hacendados, hay facendeiros o hacendados que son dueños de tierras que son del tamaño de Austria. Entonces esa realidad sigue, o sea, los imperios están presentes en nuestros territorios. O lo que está, o sea, cómo hay un ascenso de las derechas y cómo lo mencionaban algunos de ustedes, Palantir, que es esta compañía de seguridad que está es toda una mafia de persecución, o sea, nadie está libre, nadie está libre en estos tiempos de ser vigilado, de ser acosado. Entonces tenemos el desafío de articularnos, de organizarnos, de pensar estrategias colectivas y sobre todo, bueno, también nos asfixian la falta de financiamiento, porque muchas de las cosas que hacemos las hacemos de manera voluntaria, donando nuestro tiempo, nuestro esfuerzo, y a veces es desesperanzador cuando no tenemos un asidero para una buena casa, una buena comida, un buen descanso. Cada vez aumentan más las personas que viven en la calle, entonces que están, digamos, sin organización, aunque hay muchos que se han organizado. En fin, creo que hay mucho por hacer y me da mucho gusto que nos podamos ver en Cotonú, que podamos seguir tejiendo. Aún a pesar de las diferencias en el lenguaje, haremos lo posible por entendernos y esperemos que contemos también con el equipo de intérpretes solidarios que siempre nos apoya para seguir construyendo, como dice el lema del Foro Social Mundial, pues otros mundos posibles, y decía una amiga, otros mundos posibles postcapitalistas. Necesitamos regresar a la tierra, regresar al común. eh, Alguien decía desaparecer la propiedad privada, porque desaparecer a los ricos, porque creo que tiene que haber una mejor distribución de la riqueza, porque entre más dinero se tiene, más ansias de dominio se quiere. Entonces, pues que viva la esperanza, espero que nos veamos pronto y que podamos seguir construyendo procesos educativos para liberarnos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Rosie. And without you, nothing of this could happen because you are so doing so much for these things. And we all know that political content is nothing without the practical efforts. So thank you very much. As we have told everybody that it should be only 1.5 hours, it's of course, if people needs to leave, of course they should do so. But on the other hand, we have really a unique audience and we really have had a lot of impressions. I see that thanks to Burri, we get immediate impression of the Africa several of us are now going to. But there was one issue which was supposed to be taken care of by Oscar Gonzalez, I think, and which is a key issue, is the migration issue. We know that 70,000 African refugees are killed now in the Mediterranean. There are constant organizations that watchdogs who count every person. And we see this as a growing problem really everywhere. I've been very much inspired by the Helsinki Final Accords Act, and we did some work in Vilnius last year and in Helsinki. And we found that in the Helsinki Final Act, migrants' rights was very explicitly, both in terms of mother tongue language and both in terms of the same social rights as others. And this is really a message we need today. So I wonder if you, Leo, could fill in a bit about this migration issue.
Yes, Todd, thank you to everybody. We are just finishing. I have been living for half of my life in Middle America, and it has been quite difficult, the situation of migration in former times, but now it has become so terrible that people are running around without orientation because the border between Mexico and the United States is completely closed, and there are about 60,000 who have been already expulsed from the United States with methods. Any migrant is considered by the established system and the authority of being a criminal. There are situations like in El Salvador where you have a prison where 90,000 people are there, and then they put, in addition to that, people because migrants from the United States, from different countries in the world, and that has made that one should look for a solution in this terrible situation. And there is some, we have organized about 3 different conferences, and there is one basic word which is called the arraigo. In English you could say it's the rootedness, that you have to, in order to live in a dignified way, you have to have conditions, not only material ones, food and lodging and so on, but also the possibility of expressing yourself, and that means that these people have to organize themselves from wherever they are in a communal way, and that is the important point. The municipalities are the ones which are really called for, and they are responding in Middle America, also in Mexico. There are many mayors of small towns and also different villages who are in this way in a process of integration, but not like in Europe. Integration means that they have to adapt to the north. They understand it very differently, that you have to see the local population as on the same level as the migrant population. Let me just end by saying that this fantastic meeting we have been listening to, and it is really unique in a certain way. Thanks Todd, thanks Rosie and others here. This is also a new intent which did not exist in the World Social Forum in former days so much, that now we know each other, and hopefully we can get together in Cotonou, as many of us, and be in touch with those who cannot come, in order to develop an action plan, because we can coincide and make declarations and so on, but the real transformative action is the one which would shape the world and make the difference. So there is going to be on the 5th of August a first meeting in that what we call the Assembly for Struggles and Resistances of the World Social Forum, and there we will be very attentive to proposals for common action on a global level, and I wish us all very, very good luck.
Thank you, Leo. And this World Social Assembly for Struggle and Resistances was established after a decision in the World Social Forum International Council in December 2022. And that's sort of unique that we have this permanent tool that can work in a more long-term manner. But of course, it is not at all easy. There is no funds whatsoever. And one have to try to find sort of personal friends who wants to support, etc., etc. But it is, in spite of all, it's growing. One of the steps was when this World Social Assembly was contributing to the Helsinki Plus 50 process, and the connection in Vilnius when we addressed the migration issue, where we had a Central American participants, and one could see similarities also in Europe. Of course, all situations are specific, but it's also very useful to see some common patterns. Like Olga addressed today, this situation, which is not only a question about how states are behaving, also the very small things in the common life, that this militarization creates this kind of hatred against women. And we saw it recently in Northern Ireland, where people start to burn down the apartments of the nurses they need to take care of themselves. It's so extreme that one cannot believe what is going on. So we hope to continue, and for some reason we achieved some a person in Sweden who takes from his mother's heritage to support us. So we have some funds for practical issues, making leaflets and so on in Cotonou. And we will try to bring together, and this was a very helpful that people could come today. And I said that I was worrisome that there was so many similar speeches. Of course, I love it, but I will say it's new, and especially I think that what happened in the process towards World Social Forum with Via Campesina is very interesting, because before it has been a bit reluctant addressing the whole peace issue, the war issue, But now in Cotonou, Via Campesina will make a special activity on war. So it's really going on. I will try. There is the chat, yeah. So I will put that in the chat as well. So what we see now is that both the two huge movements for rural and urban workers start to see similar perspectives in this need for addressing the war issues, maintaining, of course, their social rights, and both movements also seem to understand more and more about the environment. I think one have to really put that in the context of both rural and urban equal importance. It's not only a question about fossil free, it's very much a question of land rights and agroecology, agroforestry. And when we get these things together, we hope that we can do it in terms of formulating some action plan and some more common things. But we should not forget that we cannot avoid that we have to address that there are not similar points on specific issue, and we see this in Europe very much. It was addressed now in the terms of trying to re-establish the European Social Forum, and one wanted to avoid the Ukraine issue, and then it didn't work out well anyway. And we see here that there is a tendency that on the one hand, we see the US together now more and more with Israel, which is really threatening. There is this in Senate, this proposal for getting very much closer relationship between the Israel and the US military. And we know that Palantir and these big companies are really part of the genocide while also controlling social media and very much else. And of course, there is US on the top. But we cannot avoid the question of Russia. And we know that China in Latin America is very much trying to colonize it in the neo-colonial way and wanted to become sort of providers of natural resources and so on. So I just mentioned that we cannot put everything under the carpet. But the London conference, I think, made good step forward because it equally addressed the need for supporting Ukrainian conscription objectives. It equally addressed the need for stopping EU from not inviting Russian deserters. And this attempts now to force Ukrainians back to Ukraine, and Russians should stay in Russia to feed the front. That's a very common issue which we have to face, and I think that this action against conscription, which is also very important in European countries, is we can develop some common points and find ways forward. I think it's necessary to, even if US is strongest in most cases, doesn't allow us to not see when also other actors are doing, whether small or big, to not talk about my own country, Sweden. I would say that I think we all would like to have the final words from that marching person in West Africa. I'm so impressed because I was cycling through these roads in 1976, but there was no cars, nothing. And people treated me as they were, everybody was cycling. That was the thing. And it was the most beautiful time of my life. And now see you walking there along these roads on the way to Cotonou. It's very inspiring. So can you say some final words to us? It would be very nice. Now it's freezing, huh?
Y que abran sus cámaras. Y que abran sus cámaras para tomar foto.
Yeah.
Creo que Burry se congeló. Bueno, abran sus cámaras para tomar mientras la foto.
Ok.
There are 2 pages, Rita. Está 2 páginas.
Ah, quem está guardando, então? Ah,
Deve fazer 2 fotos.
I took both pages.
Página 1 e página 2.
por favor.
Well, I'm impressed that so many stayed so long, and I hope that you will feel you who are not going to Cotonou. I think we will think about you, and we will stay with the best method that exists. That's telepathy, yeah, and
1
empathy
second,
by
George,
telepathy.
sorry. If they, I say page 2, but you have different like Leo, Lassi, Costas, Cari, Hans. If they can open the video, Majid, Bakir, so we can take also the photo of them. 1 second, if they wish. If not, they don't open. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Coming.
1000 fotos
Anyway,
ahora.
thanks to everybody. I don't want to send to Palantir, but they already check us. So, that's we have to change method. We have to go away this Zoom, guys. That's definitely an option.
Is there anybody else who wants to say a final word?
Yes.
Ciao, ciao.
Nos vemos en Cotonou. Bueno, yo agradecer al equipo de intérpretes, a Cristina, a Pamela, a María, a Jorge, a Camila, a Maris, a Andrea. Gracias por apoyarnos y bueno, y a todo el equipo de intérpretes voluntarios que nos apoyan en el Foro Social Mundial y que nos han apoyado todos estos años de manera voluntaria. Muchas gracias y pues nos vemos pronto. Y buen viaje a la caravana, buen viaje a todos los que van a ir a Cotonú y nos vemos por allá. Chao, chao. Gracias. Y
Ciao,
únanse al
ciao.
chat. Ahí vamos a recuperar toda la
Rose,
información.
muitos
¿Sí?
contatos foram compartilhados no chat.
Sí.
Eu acho que temos como guardar tudo isso,
Los
não
vamos a
é?
recuperar.
Ok.
Sí.
Gente.
Chao, chao.
Greetings from Eastern Europe.